The Epstein case refuses to stay buried. Just when you think the dust has settled, another bombshell drops, and no one saw this coming. A whistleblower has leaked claims that the FBI is scrambling to delete Epstein's files in a bid to wipe away potential proof of high-profile connections. But that brings us to the real question: who was on that list, and why would someone want these names buried for good? Stick around, because today we're diving deep into the files they don't want you to see. The files. A whistleblower just dropped some serious allegations about the FBI, and if what they're saying is true, then things might actually turn very ugly really quickly. According to this source, the FBI is straight up deleting evidence. Not just any evidence, but files tied to Jeffrey Epstein and secret internal operations against American citizens. Now let's break this down. These claims were made public on The Benny Show, where Benny Johnson highlighted how this could be one of the biggest cover-ups in recent history. The whistleblower specifically called out the FBI for wiping documents that could expose powerful individuals and shady operations. What's even wilder, this isn't just some random person making accusations. The whistleblower is saying these deletions are happening under the leadership of newly appointed FBI Director Kash Patel and his deputy Dan Bongino. And if you know anything about these two, you know they're not exactly the FBI's best friends. Patel has been vocal for years about corruption inside federal agencies. In his first speech as FBI Director, he said,
"I promise you the following. There will be accountability within the FBI and outside of the FBI, and we will do it through rigorous constitutional oversight starting this weekend."
Bongino, on the other hand, is a former Secret Service agent who's built his entire platform on calling out the so-called deep state. So if they're leading this investigation into Epstein's case and evidence is suddenly disappearing, you can bet they're going to make noise about it. But here's the shocking truth. Even as the FBI is under this new leadership, nothing has been said about these accusations. Not a denial, not an explanation, just silence. And in situations like this, silence usually speaks volumes. Now let's talk about why this is such a big deal. We're not just talking about a few misplaced files here, and if the FBI is really deleting records, that means they could be protecting some of the most powerful people in the world. Epstein's connections weren't just high profile, they were elite. Presidents, billionaires, royals, you name it. If there's anything in those files that could expose their involvement, you can see why someone might want them to disappear. Also, when you consider the circumstances surrounding Epstein's death, you'll agree that there may be more going on under the cover.
Jeffrey Epstein's death was as mysterious and controversial as his life.
People are suspicious that he was murdered.
I mean, this billionaire guy who presumably had a lot of dirt on many elite people around the world was awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges when he mysteriously died in his prison cell in 2019. The cameras in his jail cell conveniently malfunctioned. The guards on duty fell asleep. The whole thing felt too convenient. And now with these new whistleblower claims, the question isn't just about Epstein anymore. It's about whether powerful institutions are working overtime to bury the truth. But that's not all. Trump, while in office, promised to release highly classified files on multiple high-profile cases, including Epstein's. He followed through on JFK and RFK documents, but the Epstein files, those never saw the light of day. Why? That's the question people keep asking. Attorney General Pam Bondi recently confirmed that she's reviewing these files herself. She said they're literally sitting on her desk waiting for a decision. And get this, she was personally directed by Trump to go through them. Now, whether or not anything major comes out of that review process remains to be seen. But the fact that the process for releasing all the other documents is going smoothly, and this one just seems to be stalled, is a screaming big-time red flag. In fact, Congress is also picking up the heat now. House Republicans aren't just talking about why the files are yet to be released, they're making moves. For example, Luna, alongside House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, recently sent letters to multiple federal agencies demanding briefings on the status of the Epstein files. They set the deadline for these briefings as February 18th, and even as that date has passed, there's been no official word from the Attorney General, who is supposedly reviewing the documents on Trump's orders. Other lawmakers aren't staying quiet either. Reper Ilhan Omar, D-Min, said on X that the AG still not releasing the Epstein files is weird and raises the question of who she might be protecting. Bondi had previously acknowledged she had a large volume of Epstein-related documents waiting on her desk. During a recent conference, she hinted that their release was imminent, but provided no specific timeline. President Trump has given a very strong directive, and that's going to be followed, she told commentator Benny Johnson. But without clear action, Republican leaders are becoming restless. Even the Senate is now involved. Senator Mike Lee, representing Utah, directly compared the Epstein case to past declassifications, including JFK assassination records and Las Vegas shooter files. In his opinion, if the government can release information from over half a century ago, they can release the Epstein client list. So why aren't they? This push for transparency isn't isn't happening in a vacuum. Representative Luna's task force is also digging deep into multiple classified records, not just those tied to Epstein. The committee is also demanding briefings on documents related to the 9/11 attacks, COVID-19 origins, and unidentified anomalous phenomena detected by NASA. But while the task force pushes forward on other fronts, the Epstein client list remains the biggest unanswered question. The unsealed court documents from January 2024 gave the public a glimpse into Epstein's operations, but they failed to include the high-profile names many believe were complicit in his crimes. Without further disclosures, suspicions will only continue to grow, and that's exactly what has lawmakers on edge. In fact, the matter has gotten so heated that on February 25th, Representative Anna Paulina Luna, the chairwoman of the House's Federal Secrets Panel, publicly urged the Attorney General to expedite the declassification of documents related to the JFK assassination and the Epstein client list. She voiced her concerns on X, formerly Twitter, stating that she was reaching out on X because we can't seem to get a response from the AG. What is the status of the documents? She also assured the public that Kash Patel will discover exactly who destroyed these documents and they will be held accountable immediately. Despite these concerns, Bondi, the Attorney General, has yet to respond. And now, she's facing growing pressure from lawmakers who are demanding immediate action. And many of the reps are saying the longer Bondi delays, the more speculation builds. In fact, some lawmakers are already exploring ways to force the issue. Potential legislative actions, funding restrictions, and even congressional subpoenas are now being discussed as possible ways to compel the DOJ to act. As Congress applies pressure and the Trump administration reviews the files for release, one looming question remains: who exactly are they trying to protect? The Epstein scandal has always been shrouded in secrecy, but with mounting leaks and growing demands for transparency, the names tied to his network could soon be exposed. And while we wait for official answers, prediction markets like Polymarket, which gained credibility after correctly predicting Trump's win, are already placing odds on who might be involved. So who does the betting market think might be on Epstein's secretive list? Let's take a look. Who is on the list? When it comes to the Epstein files, few names draw as much attention as former President Bill Clinton. According to Polymarket odds, Clinton has a staggering 71% likelihood of appearing on the list, a prediction fueled by years of speculation, flight logs, and unsealed court documents. While Clinton has repeatedly denied visiting Epstein's private island, Little St. James, his connections to the disgraced financier have remained a subject of intense scrutiny. In his recent memoir, Citizen, Clinton acknowledges flying on Epstein's infamous private jet, colloquially known as the Lolita Express, but insists that their conversations were strictly about politics and economics. He regrets ever associating with Epstein, admitting that traveling on Epstein's plane was not worth the years of questioning afterward. However, despite these denials, newly unsealed court documents reveal that Epstein openly bragged about his ties to the former president. One witness, Johanna Sjoberg, stated in a deposition that Epstein had once claimed, "Clinton likes them young," referring to girls. Another widely circulated photograph from 2002 shows Clinton receiving a massage from Epstein's victim, Shantae Davies, during a trip to Africa on Epstein's plane. But Clinton isn't the only powerful figure under scrutiny. There's another royal name that has repeatedly surfaced in Epstein's orbit, and the latest documents only make his situation worse. The unsealed Epstein documents have reignited controversy surrounding Prince Andrew, revealing new allegations of sexual assault against the British royal. One of Epstein's victims, Johanna Sjoberg, testified that in 2001, while taking a photo with Sjoberg and Virginia Giuffre in Epstein's Manhattan townhouse, the Duke of York placed his hand on her breast. Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein were present, and disturbingly, the photo also featured a puppet labeled Prince Andrew. Sjoberg, who was recruited to work for Epstein by Maxwell, originally served as an assistant, but was soon coerced into Epstein's illicit activities. She was one of several women who later accused Andrew of inappropriate behavior. Meanwhile, Virginia Giuffre, who was 17 at the time, alleged that she was forced to have sex with Andrew at Maxwell's London residence, Epstein's New York mansion, and his private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. While Prince Andrew has repeatedly denied these allegations, he reached a financial settlement with Giuffre in 2022 without admitting liability. Adding to the controversy, Epstein's former house manager, Juan Alessi, testified that Andrew spent weeks at Epstein's Florida mansion, receiving daily massages. He also stated that Andrew was a close friend of both Epstein and Maxwell. This testimony contradicts Andrew's 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, where he claimed he had no memory of meeting Giuffre and attempted to discredit her allegations by citing his inability to sweat, a claim widely mocked and challenged by medical professionals. And if you're wondering how much Polymarket bettors think the prince will be on this list, the odds stand at 67%, and for good reason. Despite his denials, the sheer volume of evidence and testimonies suggest that Prince Andrew's involvement in the Epstein network is more than just an unfortunate association. With his name surfacing repeatedly in court documents and eyewitness accounts, it's no surprise that his odds of being named are as high as they are. Now, moving on to another name that has raised eyebrows. One of the most powerful figures in tech and philanthropy, a man who has shaped the modern digital world, yet found himself in Epstein's orbit. Yes, we're talking about Bill Gates. Few billionaires command the same level of respect and influence as Bill Gates. Co-founder of Microsoft, architect of the digital revolution, and one of the world's leading philanthropists through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, his public image has long been synonymous with innovation and global good. But despite this sterling reputation, Gates's association with Jeffrey Epstein remains a shadow that refuses to fade. When asked about his relationship with Epstein, Bill Gates said,
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have.
But unlike many others who distanced themselves from him following his legal troubles, Gates engaged with him multiple times. According to reports, he met Epstein at least 3 times at his lavish Manhattan townhouse, staying late into the night on one occasion. Foundation employees also visited Epstein's residence, and Gates himself entertained discussions about a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund Epstein proposed, but he said he cut off the meetings since they didn't result in what Epstein proposed. Gates has consistently downplayed the nature of these meetings. In a 2019 interview with the Wall Street Journal, he mentioned that he didn't have any business relationship or friendship with Epstein. Yet, emails from Gates paint a different picture. In one exchange after meeting Epstein, he wrote to colleagues, noting that Epstein's lifestyle is very different and kind of intriguing, although it would not work for me, a peculiar way to describe a convicted sex offender, to say the least. At one point, Gates even flew on Epstein's private jet, though his team later claimed he was unaware of who owned the plane. The meetings continued sporadically until around 2014, when their relationship reportedly cooled. However, connections lingered within Gates's inner circle. Notably, Boris Nikolic, a key science advisor to Gates, was named as a fallback executor in Epstein's will, something Nikolic later called shocking and deeply regrettable. In 2021, following increasing scrutiny, Gates admitted it was a huge mistake to meet with Epstein and acknowledged that doing so gave him credibility. And when asked what his lesson from the whole ordeal was, Bill Gates said,
"Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful."
Despite his attempts to move past the controversy, the internet never forgets, and on Polymarket, Gates's chances of appearing on the list sit at 64%. The next name here is someone who, according to Polymarket predictions, has one of the highest chances of appearing, though we'll save that percentage for later. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak's connections with Jeffrey Epstein have raised significant questions, particularly because they extended well past the financier's first conviction for child sex offenses in 2008. According to investigative reports from the Wall Street Journal and other sources, Barak met with Epstein at least 36 times between 2013 and 2017. Some of these meetings reportedly took place every month for nearly a year, beginning in December 2015. Among the most eyebrow-raising details, Barak accepted flights on Epstein's private jet, including one instance in 2014 when he traveled from Palm Beach to Tampa alongside Epstein, his wife, and an Israeli security guard. He later admitted to flying with Epstein on one other occasion, under similar circumstances. When confronted about these interactions, Barak claimed that his initial introduction to Epstein came through former Israeli President Shimon Peres. Adding fuel to the controversy, UK tabloid The Daily Mail published images of Barak entering Epstein's New York townhouse in 2016, suggesting a deeper association. While Barak has maintained that his meetings with Epstein were purely professional and that he never witnessed anything illegal, the sheer frequency of their encounters, coupled with the financier's known activities, has left many skeptical. Epstein's network was vast, spanning global finance, politics, and academia, but Barak remains one of the most prominent political figures whose ties to Epstein persisted even after his first conviction. With such a long and documented history, it's no surprise that Barak's name is drawing significant attention in discussions about potential Epstein associates. According to Polymarket, the probability of Ehud appearing on the Epstein list is 77%. Before we talk about the next person, let's take a step back. Some of the the names on this list come with stacks of documents, flight logs, and undeniable proof. Others, not so much. Sometimes all it takes is a viral post, a parody account, or an out-of-context quote to throw someone's name into the mix. And that's exactly what happened with Barack Obama. Yes, Barack Obama, one of the most surprising names here. While his presidency was filled with political battles, conspiracy theories, and constant scrutiny, his alleged connection to Jeffrey Epstein is almost entirely a product of internet speculation. The most recent wave of rumors started with a fake screenshot supposedly showing a post from Michelle Obama. The post, widely shared around the time of the Democratic National Convention, claimed that Michelle was calling out Obama's connection to Epstein, sarcastically pointing out that while people obsessed over his birth certificate, they ignored something far worse. But here's the truth. That post never came from Michelle Obama. It was created by a parody account that misspelled her last name and used a parody watermark. Despite this, the image spread like wildfire, fueling even more conspiracy theories about Obama's alleged ties to Epstein. Then came the so-called Epstein list. A viral Facebook post in early January 2024 claimed to show a list of 160-plus people who had supposedly been confirmed as visitors to Epstein's private island. Among the names, Obama, Oprah Winfrey, and a long list of celebrities and politicians, many of whom have no documented connection to Epstein whatsoever. Fact-checkers quickly debunked the post, pointing out that no court records, flight logs, or credible sources support the claim that Obama ever visited Epstein's island or was involved in any way. Despite the lack of evidence, Obama still has a 42% polymarket chance on this list, likely because, in the world of online betting and speculation, nothing is ever truly off the table. But here's the reality. His name keeps coming up not because of actual proof, but because of the internet's love for a good conspiracy. His middle name, Hussein, has been weaponized against him for years, with figures like Donald Trump fueling baseless rumors about his past. The Epstein scandal just became another tool for those looking to take shots at him. While the names linked to Epstein's list have sparked endless debate, some backed by evidence, others fueled by pure speculation, this isn't the first time we've seen a so-called list send shockwaves through the world. Whether it's blacklists, hit lists, or secret government files, history is full of documents that carry the weight of scandal, corruption, and mystery. And just like Epstein's, these lists have been the subject of investigations, cover-ups, and conspiracy theories that refuse to die. In the next section, we'll be talking about some of the other infamous lists that have left a mark on history. Other infamous lists. The first on the infamous list of leaks that have sent shockwaves across the world is the Iraq War Logs. This document leak, published by WikiLeaks on October 22, 2010, contained nearly 400,000 classified U.S. military reports from the Iraq War between 2004 and 2009. The documents revealed thousands of previously unreported civilian deaths, widespread military abuses, and extensive foreign involvement in the U.S. war with Iraq. One of the most striking findings was the death toll. Before the leak, U.S. and British officials claimed they did not keep an official count of civilian casualties. However, the logs showed that out of 109,000 recorded deaths, 66,081 were civilians. Many were victims of roadside bombs, airstrikes, and shootings at checkpoints. Some were wrongly labeled as enemy combatants, making the actual toll even harder to determine. Among the most infamous incidents was the July 12, 2007 Baghdad airstrike, where a U.S. Apache helicopter killed 2 Reuters journalists and several civilians. Despite video evidence showing they posed no threat, the military classified them as enemy killed in action. The documents also exposed the extent of torture and abuse, particularly by Iraqi security forces. Hundreds of reports talked about beatings, electrocution, and executions of detainees. Yet the U.S. military largely ignored these cases unless they directly involved American or British personnel. Some reports described detainees being tortured with power drills. Private military contractors like Blackwater were also implicated, with logs documenting incidents where they killed civilians indiscriminately, including a case where guards opened fire on a crowded street, killing a father and injuring his wife and daughter. The reports indicated that Iran's Quds Force supplied insurgents with deadly roadside bombs and trained militias to attack both U.S. troops and Sunni civilians. Hezbollah operatives were reportedly training Iraqi insurgents in advanced kidnapping techniques. There were also mentions of U.S. surveillance drones mysteriously disappearing inside Iranian territory, fueling speculation about Iran's role in escalating the conflict. The release of the Iraq War Logs triggered a global outcry. Human rights organizations demanded investigations into torture allegations, while the UN called for accountability. The U.S. government downplayed the leaks, dismissing them as old information, while the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki dismissed the documents as politically motivated. Then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton condemned the disclosure, arguing it endangered American personnel and allies. The Pentagon also called it a tragedy, but insisted there was no deliberate effort to hide civilian casualties. Just when the world was still digesting the shock shocking revelations from the Iraq war logs, another bombshell dropped: the Panama Papers. This list is one of the biggest leaks in history, exposing how the world's richest and most powerful people use secret offshore companies to hide their wealth, evade taxes, and launder money. Its origin can be traced to 2015, when an anonymous whistleblower, known only as John Doe, contacted a German newspaper called Süddeutsche Zeitung. He had a massive collection of confidential documents from a Panamanian law firm called Mossack Fonseca, minus 11.5 million files to be exact. The German newspaper couldn't handle all this information alone, so they teamed up with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, ICIJ, a global network of reporters. Over 400 journalists from 80 countries spent a year analyzing the data before releasing their findings in April 2016. When the news broke, it sent shockwaves around the world. One of the biggest revelations was a financial trail leading back to Russian President Vladimir Putin. His close friend, named Sergei Roldugan, was at the center of a scheme that moved around $2 billion through offshore companies. Some of this money ended up in a ski resort where Putin's daughter got married. While Putin himself was not directly named, the connections were undeniable. Other powerful figures exposed in the leak included Nawaz Sharif, the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Petro Poroshenko, the President of Ukraine, and Sigmundur David Gunnlaugsson, the Prime Minister of Iceland. Gunnlaugsson faced massive protests and was forced to resign just 2 days after the leaks went public. Even British Prime Minister David Cameron's late father was linked to offshore accounts. His investment fund, based in the Bahamas, had avoided paying taxes in the UK for decades by using local residents to sign documents and keep the fund technically offshore. The documents also showed how celebrities, athletes, and business moguls used secret companies to move money. Famous names included Lionel Messi, Jackie Chan, and movie director Stanley Kubrick. While this may not exactly be illegal, the Panama Papers revealed how these accounts were often used for shady purposes. Many were linked to fraud, corruption, drug trafficking, and tax evasion. Since then, governments worldwide have scrambled to investigate, leading to new laws and tax reforms. As if the shocking revelations from the Panama Papers weren't enough, another explosive revelation emerged, one that delved into the dark intersection of social media, politics, and data privacy. This leak, known as the Cambridge Analytica files, exposed how a political consulting firm exploited Facebook data to manipulate elections worldwide. Cambridge Analytica was a British data analytics company that specialized in crafting targeted political campaigns. However, the real controversy lies in how they obtained their data. Instead of securing users' permission, they covertly harvested personal information from over 50 million Facebook profiles. This massive data grab was facilitated through a seemingly harmless personality quiz app called This Is Your Digital Life, developed by data scientist Alexander Kogan. Users were paid to complete the survey, but the app did more than just collect their responses. It also pulled data from all their Facebook friends without their knowledge or consent. This allowed Cambridge Analytica to construct detailed psychological profiles of millions of voters. Facebook found out about this breach in 2015 but took minimal action. The company requested that Cambridge Analytica delete the data, but there was no effective follow-up. Instead, the firm used this information to design highly sophisticated voter targeting strategies that influenced key elections, including the 2016 US presidential race and the Brexit referendum in the UK. When the scandal became public in 2018, global outrage erupted, Facebook's stock plummeted, the hashtag #DeleteFacebook trended worldwide, and CEO Mark Zuckerberg was summoned to testify before the US Congress. The company eventually admitted its failure to safeguard user data, leading to one of the largest fines in history, a $5 billion penalty from the US Federal Trade Commission. With their access to millions of Facebook profiles, Cambridge Analytica was able to analyze people's personalities, fears, and motivations, using that knowledge to create highly personalized political advertisements. During the 2016 US presidential election, the firm worked for Donald Trump's campaign, identifying persuadable voters and bombarding them with ads designed to trigger emotional responses. If someone was anxious about immigration, they saw fear-inducing ads about border security. If another voter was motivated by patriotism, they were shown uplifting messages about Trump's leadership. Cambridge Analytica's influence extended far beyond the US. The firm was accused of interfering in elections across the world, from Kenya to India to Trinidad and Tobago. Undercover reports even captured employees boasting about using fake news, sex scandals, and deceptive tactics to manipulate public opinion. In the UK, Cambridge Analytica was linked to the Brexit referendum, though an official investigation later found no direct involvement, yet skepticism remains. The backlash was swift and severe. Cambridge Analytica shut down in 2018 and filed for bankruptcy. Facebook, on the other hand, faced continued scrutiny and legal battles, with the UK imposing a £500,000 fine for failing to protect user data. The scandal's whistleblower, Christopher Wiley, played a crucial role in exposing the firm's unethical practices, sparking global conversations about data privacy and regulation. Ultimately, the Cambridge Analytica scandal was more than just a case of data misuse. It revealed that the content users see online isn't always organic. It's often carefully engineered to influence perceptions in ways they might not even realize. While Facebook and other tech giants have since implemented stricter privacy measures, many argue that the battle for digital privacy is far from over. With that, we've come to the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on any of the cards showing on your screen now to enjoy more interesting content like this.